Welcome back to another fantastic episode of I'm Going to Talk. You're going to listen. This is episode, I don't know. I'm chilling out here in the back office watching an impossibly amazing sunset. I can see the clouds for 40 miles. It just looks amazing. And the wind has finally stopped, and I can hear the bugs, and it's lightly sprinkling. The birds are playing their save music for the night, so they can save their progress for the next day, so they can reboot tomorrow. True to form, as soon as I published the fall edition of Bunker Codes, I ended up updating it like 4 times. I'm finally done though, so this next one that's updating, which is I think 2.1C, is the last one. There's a couple more quotes I wanted to throw in, and I vet the people I share, at the very end of the book. I vet them like a lot, and one of them is being a little silly and changed their name and has scrubbed their videos like twice, and I know he's going through some stuff, so I took him off there while he redoes his channel. He's okay, but he's just being... Well, the battle moochers are marching. They demand hay bales. I'm super exhausted. I took a couple extra days off to kind of like reboot, but like I've noticed sometimes what happens is like it takes me 2 or 3 days to reboot, and then I have like a second crash. And this is my second crash. It's so weird. It's so hard to explain. But I go through like multiple crashes and reboots before my body is ready to not be like in habitual fight or flight mode with the work stuff. Work is going through massive upheavals, but I'm confident this time I'm going to come out on top. And I was thinking about it, and it's like lots and lots and lots of things have not gone my way in life. Our way, my wife's and my way. But the fact that we've been able to make it is still a far cry from most people. And I guess I've said this before. I just do not know how anybody's making it right now, unless you're on a low or no mortgage, no interest mortgage, or have like an insanely steady dual income. I just don't know how you're making it. I don't know how anyone's making it, unless you've got like 5 side gigs. I know that, and I've told my management this. It's like, you guys got to understand, if you have low or no mortgage, you basically have an entirely additional paycheck that I don't have. Like, we are not technically making the same amount of money. You're making like 50% more than me, just due to the fact that you have low or no mortgage. And people have asked me like, well, what would you do to fix it? And I'm like, I think what I would do is if you own a single home, and that you're a normal person and not a corporation or something, and it's not an investment property, I think if you should, everyone with a home should be able to refinance their home to like a very, very, very low amount. That way, at least all the homeowners could be on the same page. And I'm sure everybody else would scream, bitch, piss, and moan that that's not fair, but I think the fact that they won't do that is just proof that they really just don't want us to keep our homes. They want the banks to just own everything. These weather patterns are absolutely amazing. I just can't stop looking at. As soon as I saw these awesome like weather patterns going on, I knew I had to like come out here. What did I want to talk about though? I wanted to talk about bunker basics. It would really help me out if everyone would leave a review of bunker basics. I did drop the price for a few days, so everybody can grab it. And once this next version's out, I'm going to try to shop it around to some bookstores, which is super scary because bookstore owners are just mega freaking pretentious. But hopefully with the new book cover, hopefully the new book cover and book title will win them over. But I wanted to do one more update and get a lot of feedback before I tried to shop it around. And I'm glad I did, because I've done another probably 40 hours worth of work on it for the fall update. I'm really happy with where it's at now. I still want to add even more quotes, but there's so many fun quotes in there. I think it was like Love and Life that said that they love the quotes. And so I'm like, oh man, I probably put 20 or 30 quotes in there now. So even if you just read it through the quotes, I think you're going to have a big smile on your face. I want to add even more. But it's funny. I used the AI a lot to track down the quotes. And every time I said like pop culture, find me pop culture references, like every single one was from Big Bang Theory, which is gay, cultural appropriation. Seinfeld, which I absolutely is a disgusting abomination of a show as far as I'm concerned. And just all these other trendy, just slop shows. And so I worked really hard to try to, I don't know how much that sprinkling is coming up. It occurred to me that the sprinkling might make this really hard to listen to. But we'll try it anyway. I can see it spiking on the analyzer. It might be okay. I tried to cite sources for the quotes that had like more historical pertinence, which sounds kind of dumb, because like I bring up Big Bang Theory, which again is just massive cultural appropriation. That show should have never got made. Period. Same thing with like Rick and Morty. That show should have never been made. All they do is just absolutely just lobotomize nerd culture. And to be clear, like I thought Ready Player One was great. I think Ready Player One does it the right way. I think Rick and Morty and Big Bang Theory are just completely bastardized nerd culture. And I think instead of just citing them over and over again, since none of that content is original content, going back and citing where the information came from originally, and a lot of the stuff that I was quoting, some of it was from like 100 to 300 years ago, and I thought that was really, I think maybe in some cases like 400 years ago, and I think that was really interesting. So I tried to really go like way back, because my bunker book has always, at least in part, been kind of like a time machine. And so I was really happy with how all that turned out. I thought about going back and, like, several people suggested adding images and going back and adding like memes for every section, but that would have bloated the book out to just be impossibly impossibly a huge bloated mess. And so the quotes, I think, were a nice middle ground. So what I did was I made a new Proton Mail called Bunker Basics at protonmail.com. And if you ordered a copy of Bunker Basics recently, and send me the version of Bunker Basics that you have, send me like a screenshot of the first page of your Bunker Basics was the version you have. I'll send you and send me an address. I'll drop ship you a new copy. Bunker Basics at protonmail.com. I'll do that for the next week or two. And if you're one of the VIPs, which you know who you are, and I said that I would send you a signed copy, email me and I'll send you a signed copy, but it's going to be a few weeks. And there's only like a handful of VIPs, so if you don't know if you are one or not, you're not. VIPs are people I've shipped things to before. So that's kind of my way of not really like apologizing, but like accepting the fact that I know I change these versions a lot because if I'm going to sit on the book for a long time, I want it to be perfect-ish, as perfect as it can get. And the fact that my Bunker book has gone through probably like 20 or 30 iterations right now. It's a very, very, very iterative book. And I know people have slammed me on that in the past, but it's because I learn how to explain things better to people through my interactions with them. Man, I'm so stinking tired. I slept in and 2 cups of coffee and took a nap and a whole monster. I'm just exhausted. This sprinkling is probably too loud, so I'm gonna stop this, I think, and enjoy this for a few minutes and go inside. And I have a part 2. I have a main topic, I swear, so we'll see how I do. All right, part 2. So let's see. It's the weather is summertime. It's summertime again. So there's that. That was fast. That was a fast winter, fall, whatever that was. Back out to be in the mid 70s, and the sun is just baking, and the plants have no idea what's going on. It's kind of like, and kind of just talking out loud, it's kind of like how we have like a lot of those like false springs. You have like 2 or 3, 4, sometimes like false springs. Like summer here didn't start until like 2 or 3 weeks into June. That's how far behind we were. You're supposed to be planting everything in April. Nothing started growing for like 6 more weeks, which is just insane. So the cucumbers started growing again, the tomatoes started growing again. The cabbage are still growing, they never stopped. The zucchini are starting to grow again. Yeah, it's weird. I'm definitely glad we took the time, effort, energy to keep reinforcing the trees, because if there's another 6 weeks of weather like this, then the trees are gonna start growing again. Some of them already have. So the deer nibbled them because I think the deer were like, "Oh crap, it's winter," and it's like, it was hot enough the other day to get a sunburn. And then, we had like 3 or 4 days of like almost torrential downpours. And then a couple days of overcast, and then it's just like gorgeous out. Like it feels like summer again. There's kind of like a chill tinge in the shadows, but like the cucumbers have like 5, 6, 7 more cucumbers on the vines, and they were turning yellow and petering out, but then they had a change of heart. It's really weird. The tomatoes, the strawberries have no idea what they're doing. I'm gonna, if these strawberries survive, we're gonna completely redo the strawberries. Just didn't have the energy this summer. Not only did we get about 6 weeks less of summer than we'd hoped, because again, it didn't start until damn near July. Oh man, it's just weird. This summer was weird. This is the weirdest summer. Um, we barely got everything put in the ground in time. Um, oh, stink bug inbound. I don't know. It was weird. It's hard to even explain. I at first I had given up on. I almost was just like not even going to grow anything. And then at the last second, in like March, April, I'm like, well, shoot, I guess I'll try to grow some things. Like it's way too late, but I did, and I'm glad I did, because this weather is just so bonkers. But some of the things that should have done great didn't. Some of the things that shouldn't have gone great ended up doing amazing, and I'm wondering if this is going to be an every other year thing. So like I'm wondering if we're going to have like an early summer next year, or maybe some like late frosts, and then like just an abrupt early summer. Like we had such a mild winter that everything just did great in terms of like bouncing back in the spring, but then it was overcast for 3 or 4 months of overcast. It's just really weird. I don't know. I probably said it's really weird about 10 billion times, but it's just because I'm looking at these strawberries and they kind of don't know what to do. I guess I should check the AI and see if I should replant these things, or see how to weather strawberries, or see if they're going to winter themselves. But like some of these strawberries are still flowering. These kind of magenta flowers. It's really weird. And then some of the other ones, they were getting dehydrated and then fine, and dehydrated and fine. Even people, I've been talking to people that have even like lived here for a long time, and even they don't know. The gal I talked to said she's harvesting and preserving every single thing she possibly can, because she has no idea. I think her words were something like, she doesn't even know if anything's going to grow next year, or her words. And she's been living here, and so that was kind of scary. Um, Obviously, I'm still really bummed that the deer ate the leaves. Um, I would have loved for the trees to get another like 6 weeks of energy. Those leaves are really like solar panels, and without those leaves being the little solar panels, the trees just don't get that much energy. And that energy, and the trees don't even know how much energy they need. And it's weird because on the one hand, like, you know, when I lost my that's stupid stink bug again. When I lost my huckleberries last year, you know, those things had tons of sun and tons of leaves, and they just got fried because they just couldn't handle direct sun. But these trees, they can take direct sun, and the water helps them, but they need those stinking leaves. And like between um, the black spots that the leaves get, you know, and it's like the caterpillars eating the leaf. Man, it's just a mess. Like, I legit don't know how fruit trees ever grew here, ever, naturally, unless all of the carnivores ate all of the herbivores and allowed everything to grow. And it's kind of weird, like, I was kind of stuck in that mental gymnasium of like how, you know, you think carnivores are the problem, and you think you want, you know, herbivores because you think herbivores are sustainable. But cows, even cows, like, are not sustainable. If cows were just allowed to just take over a planet with nothing to stop them, with, you know, no wolves or whatever it is that eats cows, bears maybe, I don't know. Like, you'd never, the every single inch of the planet would be eaten, and then they would all just die off. Like, you have to have, there has to be a balance, or like nothing will ever grow. Like, and I say that because just deer are just ridiculous. And I'm realizing this now. If trees don't get over a certain height, they will just never make it from the deer. And then the bigger deer will come and just completely break the branches off. It's nuts. And then they'll just get up next to them, and then they'll nuzzle them to get their antlers off. Then they'll just destroy them that way too. And it's just like, deer are like genetically engineered to like destroy trees in just every way possible. They eat the new little buds. They eat the leaves off them. Sometimes they'll just completely eat the branches, and then they'll just rub their antlers off and just destroy the tree the rest of the way. It's just insane. Trees cannot regenerate as fast as deer can destroy them. And deer have no natural predators here besides poachers, who are openly poaching the deer here with total impunity. And I don't know. So I'm going to be reflecting on that a lot this winter, as I also reflect on, you know, dirt. And I've got some composting here to do that's turning into soup, which is gross. I hope nothing gets into that. I've kind of a headache right now, though. But I've got to get a lot of fertilizer, and I've got to get a lot of compost, and I'm going to definitely be composting very, very different than last year, because I need to create a lot of new dirt. I can't just keep buying dirt. And I didn't buy any new dirt this year. There was some construction going on, and I was able to salvage just tons and tons and tons and tons of dirt. And And then we moved some planter boxes around, and my wife helped me salvage even more dirt. So, I mean, we just got almost like an entire garden full of like free dirt. Now, it wasn't great, but I was able to kind of rejuvenate it a little bit. And it did good enough to grow 8 tomato plants. And the cucumbers, I think. So I'm just going to keep keep that going. But what I am going to do is I'm going to get out the weed barrier, and I'm going to weed barrier the totes so they don't turn into weed balls, because I had 2 of the totes turn into big weed balls. And I can tell that the stuff that we compost is starting to turn into new plants, which I didn't mind when I was just making, a random compost pile on the other side of the yard. But that's very problematic when I'm doing that here. Now, you don't have to use weed barrier. You can use compost. I'm sorry, you can use cardboard. The other C word. You can use cardboard and just put dirt on top of the cardboard. I think you can put grass clippings. So there's a couple different things you can do. But we don't have grass clippings because we don't have a riding lawnmower. A couple things have to go right for that to happen. But I think the moral of the story is like, keep improving your position every time you have energy and the means. And so for us, we had some of that heavy duty fencing that we salvaged, and then taking chicken wire and then putting the chicken wire over that so the deer couldn't poke their beaks in. And you just keep reinforcing your positions over and over and over and over. And that's what we did with the deer, eventually they get a bug up their ass and they find a new way in. But what I didn't do is just like overcommit ludicrous amounts of resources. Like, the trees have to do some of the work. Like, I can't baby those trees too much because stuff is gonna nibble on them. They're gonna get a little too hot. They're gonna get a little too cold. Goodness forbid they're gonna be getting snow packed on them, and some of those trees are just very, very dainty twigs. And there could be an ice storm, and it could just shear those trees to ribbons. And I've thought about that. My heartache is not over with those apple trees. They have to survive the winter too. Now, I don't think it'll be the end of the world, because on the other trees, their suckers all survive somehow. And I don't necessarily know that those trees got a lot of energy stored before they got demolished left, right, up, and down. But these trees are resilient, and I'm confident if we have a late winter, which I am so hoping that we have a late winter, there'll be still time. But I tell you what, like, if we have a bitter winter this year, we're going to be okay, but it's not going to be great. But I'll be ready. I can finally say, like, next year, I will be ready for a bitter winter. I will be ready for whether it's an early summer or a late summer. I'm going to be ready. And I put a lot of that into the bunker book, the bunker basics, in the updates I made. Next year, starting in like February, I'm gonna start like our cucumbers, our zucchini, and our tomatoes, because those are the only three things I'm doing from now on. Besides potatoes don't count. I do potatoes no matter what. Even if I don't want to deal with them, I still do potatoes. I'm gonna start them in like February, and I'm gonna start them in clear plastic so I can watch what they're doing, so I don't have to deal with transplant shock. And I'm gonna be getting those dang things as big as I freaking possibly can before I put them in the ground, or actually before I start summer acclimating them. And I put all the summer acclimation stuff in there a little bit more too, but I actually have, I think I finally have like a really good plan figured out. And so I really recommend to all of you, like, for your gardening plans, you almost need 2 gardening plans. You need like a like an early summer gardening plan and like a late summer gardening plan. And then that way, if it takes you a couple times to get your seedlings going, it's not that big of a deal to get your sproutlings going. And yeah. And then if they do get going, you can measure out how many you want. So we want to at least have 4 cucumbers, but we could do as many as 5 or 6 cucumbers here. And I might do another cucumber over there, I don't know. And then we want to do all the zucchini there, because we can go through a lot of zucchini, because we can make zucchini bread. And I love zucchini bread. And then that center part will be tomatoes, and we can have 8 tomatoes there. And then that's going to be just this garden. So there's actually room. I mean, if we wanted to do like 4 zucchini there, we can still do something else on that back row. But I tell you what, like, carrots are a bust. The cabbage are trying, don't get me wrong. And we could do cauliflower and broccoli here, but they're just a mess. There's a reason why people will tell you, like, don't do broccoli and cauliflower. It's just disgusting. It doesn't work. I mean, it works, and you can chop them off and they'll grow. Like, this broccoli just keeps growing more broccoli over and over and over and over and over. It's just I'm not in the mood for broccoli. Or cauliflower. Cauliflower, man. We grew a cauliflower the size of a freaking football, but like, it was disgusting. Like, 50 earwigs came out of that thing. It was nasty. So I don't know. We did a lot of maters, like, just for fun. But we never really got enough maters to do salsa like we wanted. We got to do our tomatoes just a little bit different. We got to cage them up better. And I didn't fertilize them halfway through like you're supposed to. I had some extra potatoes. The deer came and ate the tops off the potatoes. And the neighbor said the voles ate the potatoes themselves in their yard. But again, like, I've always, like, I think potatoes are awesome. We even had like a really good potato plan, but I ran out of energy to fart around with potatoes this year, even though we had a great plan for it. We have tons and tons and tons of 3-gallon pots that my mom brought, and if I had had the energy, which I just did not do, I got tired of collecting dirt over and over and over and over and over again. This was a bad summer because of work, and I hurt my ankle a couple of times. But work was just brutal. This is our second or third summer of working on this project, just like all the way through the summer. But we're done. And so what I'm going to be doing, I think I kind of have this figured out, is like I'm going to be taking some time off whenever I finally decide where the beginning of summer is going to be, and then I'm going to take time off to just plant everything, and then I'm going to take time again off in the fall to like harvest and kind of not harvest, but like wrap it all up. Like I said, like pull it all out and like weed barrier it all. But I need to take time off to actually like do the potatoes. Potatoes aren't like a huge time investment, but if you don't take care of them just right, they're kind of a mess. And like half my potatoes were ready to harvest like way too early. Like I could have gotten 2 batches of tomatoes, but like I said, potatoes. But like I said, the cat crapped in my potatoes, which is really annoying. And then I kind of lost my appetite for that batch of tomatoes. Either a cat crapped in my potatoes after I picked them or before I picked them, and I just didn't notice. And you might think that that's funny or gross or disgusting, but I think I've told you this before. Like back when my friend was watching my potatoes for me, their cats used to crap in the potatoes all the time. And that's something that I'm still not particularly sure how I feel about. But seeing the turd in there, psychologically did it for me. So I'm just gonna leave those potatoes out. I've got them right here. I'm just gonna leave those potatoes out. I'm sure the deer will come. I'm sure the deer will come get them. I've got a billion more. And then what I'm going to do is all the seed potatoes that I've been saving, I'm going to throw all those out too and start all over. And what my wife says we could do is bring all the potatoes in. Instead of trying to save a ton of them over the winter, just turn them just right into hash browns. But we didn't get to that, but we're gonna do that with this next batch. I still have like 4 totes of, because they all regrew again, so I've got like 4 totes of potatoes again, which is fine. And I think back from like 5 years ago, it was kind of my idea to just keep like a 365 cycle of potatoes always going. So who knows? I might actually just dig all the seed potatoes out and just throw them back in the tote and just let those go throughout the winter and see if the potatoes will just keep growing. If we have another really weak winter, the potatoes will grow right through the winter, which is what my last ones did. If it gets cold enough, they'll hibernate. If it doesn't get cold enough, the potatoes will just keep growing. It's insane. The strawberries will too, but I think these strawberries really want some more fertilizer and they really want some new dirt, and I just haven't had the energy. But we have the little container planter things to put them in. Oh, I said I had a main topic. Let me see how the batteries. Let me see how the battery's doing. Can we go for half an hour? Oh yeah, the battery's fine. I had a main topic. I don't remember if this is what it was or not. The civil unrest. Like, the civil unrest is reaching a fever pitch. We're to the next stage now where Antifa, attacked the reporters too many times. Or the boots on the ground. They attacked the citizen journalists too many times, and that pissed the conservatives off. And the conservatives are going down there to just raise holy hell. That caused Portland police to start arresting them, calling them agitators, despite it being Antifa that was attacking everybody. How there's a bug on my face. Go away, bug. How Portland, how mob rule just works in general is they try to disarm the mob as much as they can. If the mob will disarm, if the mob won't disarm, they tend to go after whoever is agitating that mob. If it's a peaceful mob, relatively mostly peaceful mob. So if there's an Antifa mob and there's a couple people agitating them, they'll figure out some kind of charge to arrest those handful of people with, even if the mob shouldn't be there. And that's what they've been doing. And they will also allow the mob to attack whoever those people are, if it keeps them shooed away and if it keeps the peace. And that's the disgusting reality of all this. And that's why I keep saying, like, it's really nice to say, they're pitting us against each other. But the reality is like, nobody's making Antifa attack anybody. They're doing this themselves because they want to, and because they've decided everybody's the bad guys and that they're the anti-bad guys. And I got into it with somebody again. Someone was making buttons that was encouraging people to attack somebody. And then I go, oh, it's just a button. Oh, it's just a block. Oh, it's just a city. Oh, it's just this, it's just that. And then they messaged me back. This is the second person now that's brought up my book. So I think it's funny that I'm in a weird way that I'm trolling people enough or triggering them enough to where they're going to bring my book up. And so they brought my book up in this thread. And I messaged them back and I said, it's just a book, dude. And that's the problem, is like, you can't say like, oh, it's just a button, oh, it's just speech, oh, it's just a riot, oh, it's just this, it's just that, it's just, they just punched them one time, they just shoved them out of the way. That's how the left operates. Oh, it's just this, it's just that. When they were doing the milkshakes, that many people alleged had Quikrete and their skin was burning, you know what they'd say? Oh, they're just milkshakes. It's like, why are you gaslighting everybody like that? It's just silly string. These are just flags. These are just signs. Well, there was somebody that, was just holding their sign the other day, or just holding their flag, and the person behind them had an axe handle that they were ready to start jabbing into the crowd. And the police saw them and grabbed them, thankfully, because that would have been horribly violent if this person had started attacking people with this axe handle. Because axe handles are, imagine like a baseball bat, but even worse. I would argue hitting somebody with an axe handle is worse than hitting them with a baseball bat. So That's always the thing. It's always, oh, you were just being shoved. Oh, you were just being yelled at. Oh, we were just shining a flashlight in your eyes. Oh, it was just a megaphone in your face. Oh, you were just being spit on. Like this rhetoric that, like, the two sides shouldn't be fighting. That's fine, except, like, let's not pretend like that the two sides, that patriots and conservatives, let's not pretend like they're the other side of the coin to anarcho tyrannical leftist commie soy psychos. Okay. Or it would be more accurate, I guess, if you said that, a bunch of, like, rhinos were the other side of the coin to, like, these flower child hippie, Woodstocks. That's why in my books I call them the Woodstocks and the Reagans, because those are kind of like two sides of the same coin. The Patriot movement, the real one, not the fake grifter shit, and commies are not two sides of the same coin. It is an action and a reaction. They're not the same. That's like saying a cow is the other side of, like, a horse or something. It's like, well, I mean, they both eat grass and shit everywhere, but, they're not the same. Just like, deer. Just like deer aren't the same as cows. It's like, well, they both eat grass and shit everywhere, but they're not the same. My neighbors are rocking and rolling on their tractor. But I can never see them from back here. That's one of the things I don't like about the backyard, is you're kind of cut off from what's going on in the front yard, and usually what's going on in the front yard is way more interesting. The backyard is like the quiet, chill place to go in the front yards, where all the cool shit happens. But I don't know. The civil unrest is definitely getting worse, though. The doxing is getting worse. I forgot if I really covered this, but, like, I can't emphasize enough how glad I am that I'm not going to these rallies, riots, protests anymore. Not only, I served my 4 years of riots, a whole cycle, end to end. But the left has this down to such a science now. They just immediately dox everybody. You're just immediately doxed. And they immediately know everything about you, and they proceed to ruin your entire life. ICE agents are going around and seeing pictures of their kids, on the sides of street poles and stuff. That's not right. Like, there's a reason why, like, the FBI should be all over this. Like, this is vile. This far left movement is vile. It's abhorrent. It's an abomination. It's disgusting. But people go, oh, well, it's mostly peaceful. It's like, well, it's only mostly peaceful because they are choosing at this specific time to keep it mostly peaceful, but they are dictating the course of all these actions. All their funding is back, clearly. These aren't like the Alpha Squad. This is the Beta Squad, but the Alpha Squad is waiting for both sides. And the more this cooks off, the more activate and the more people get enveloped and embroiled. And the National Guard could have put a squash to this, but Kotek and her lawyers and her courts have been fighting tooth and nail to make sure that the National Guard doesn't get involved. And it's tough. People, martial law, martial law, martial law. It's like, you know what though? The problem is last time Trump should have done this and didn't. And now that he's doing it, everyone, martial law, it sets a bad precedent. You know what else sets a bad precedent? Letting the left just completely control your cities. The only way this gets resolved in any sort of a proper systemic fashion where rule of law even still remotely exists is if all these corrupt politicians get arrested and all their funding dries up. And then we go back to some semblance of conservatives not being such fucking pussies. And after all this time, you'd think conservatives would wake up and stop being such raging fucking pussies. But on Twitter, half of what I see is like, we need a moderate leader. No, we don't. We don't need a moderate leader. We need a far right leader. Not in terms of like the alt right. I mean, like, we need a hard right leader that at a bare minimum will fully restore the Second Amendment and reduce these ludicrous taxes that we have. Very, very, very fiscally conservative. Very, very hard line financial conservative. And law and order needs to return to the I-5 corridor. The I-5 corridor is lawless. I was in town earlier for something, and there was just white trash everywhere. And it was just, you get a real like semblance of unease when there's like, military like fighting age, like white trash everywhere. I don't know. Whenever it's any poor community, it's a real concern. Because the poors want what the non-poors have, and if you're not ready to defend yourself when the poors decide to go after the non-poors, and it got me thinking. We walked by the one, clearly homeless, on his bicycle, wearing almost no clothes, propped up against the wall with his phone plugged in. We're like, okay, well, we're gonna steer around him, but that's only one guy. Well, around the corner was two more guys, also wearing almost no clothes with their bicycles. And they're all, would I say that they're in like really good shape? I mean, they weren't like string beans, but they were very like lean, whether that was from like the drugs or just the fact that they don't eat that much or whatever, but they were And clearly, like, if they're just nonstop, like, walking and bicycling all day, they're going to be in just light years better shape. So to think that I could fight them if I had to is just absurd. So, you go back to the whole, like, Second Amendment thing. But defending yourself against the poors just shines like a giant spotlight on you, which is why, you should get, whoever's carrying in your family, concealed carry for your family. And then carry, locked and loaded. But I'm like, I was almost wondering, I'm like, when resources get even more, constrained, I could see like the two guys on the bicycles wanting to fight the one guy on the bicycle over the charging port that he had. And I had never really thought about that before. The homeless people don't share. They're insanely territorial. And I could see them just like stabbing each other to death over the charging port. And to be clear, I don't even know why the charging port was there. But it was. There was a charging port on the outside of the building, and one of the homeless guys was propped up on his bicycle charging his phone. That's the thing. You think these people, I call them poors, but like, I don't know. I don't know if people get tired of me calling them low IQ ferals or whatever. These guys didn't seem feral, but they seemed like they could have been feral at like the drop of a hat. And you're gonna see this more and more and more and more and more as unemployment just goes through the roof, especially like federal unemployment is going to be the next one to go. Like we're going on week 2 of the government shutdown. There's going to be like massive reorgs and layoffs coming. And you might not think that those could be like a lot of like fighting age men or like maybe like lower IQ or whatever, but with how everyone shits on the government, it's like everyone would probably think that they're a bunch of like low IQs, but you're going to have like a lot of contractors that don't fit that mold and they're going to be unemployed. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. Or they're, maybe they'll get let go, but then all their kids are going to be out wandering around now. It's just going to be a mess. You've got to figure out, like, you take your family out to eat and you could get ambushed at your car. Like, our car was around the corner, so that guy, we could have turned the corner, there could have been 2 guys, and then the guy behind us could have got up. Since we were the only car left in the parking lot. We were the last people there. It could have easily been an ambush. And if you're not thinking about that, like, I need a round in the chamber, I need other people to be carrying, I didn't put 2 and 2 together as to like how much of a trashy part of the neighborhood that we were going. But because it was right off the freeway. It wasn't a trashy part of the neighborhood at all, but it's just the whole shitty has gone to shit. And the thing is like, given my current level of preparedness, I wouldn't have been able to dispatch 3 guys by myself. Not with 2 in front of me and 1 behind me. Because the guy behind me would have just clocked me or grabbed me, and that would have been it. We would have just, and then the 2 people I would have been with would have just completely been at their mercy. And you think that you're ready and you think you train. Man, it's just like so much of it is just like a mental game. Like, you can get ambushed so fast now. Your family's lives can be over in a heartbeat. And you're fear-mongering. It's like, those guys didn't mean you any harm. It's like, no, but if they did, I would have been completely at their mercy. And that's the problem. is like, unless you train with a group, and thankfully my brain finally clicked as to what the main topic was. The whole thing with the Second Amendment is self-defense. Obviously, a lot of people say no, it's not. It's a check and balance against tyranny. It's all self-defense. But the first 4 words of the Second Amendment are not even about firearms at all. And I tried to get some different people's ideas about this, and some people were a little bit more hostile than others, because they think being a Second Amendment absolutist means guns. And the first 4 words of the Second Amendment have nothing to do with guns. The first 4 words of the Second Amendment talk about being in a militia. And a well-regulated militia, meaning how they meant well-regulated back then, meant a well-trained militia. And everybody's a part of the militia. That means if your wife's walking around, she's a part of the militia. If your mom's walking around, your dad, your kids, if they're fighting age, they're all the militia. And I think there's possibly no ever better time in all of history than all of us being a part of the militia than now, when they're trying to say that, as the left has tried to say in the past, that the National Guard is the militia, even though the National Guard is a relatively new construct and the militia has been around for 300 years, 250 years, and the National Guard is not even remotely that old. And if everyone's saying that the National Guard is an invasion and the National Guard is martial law, then they can't be the militia. Then the militia, by definition, would be defending yourselves against the tyrannical government, which is exactly what the Second Amendment is. Forming a militia to be a well-trained check and balance against a tyrannical government, or, well, really any tyrannical armed coordinated group, which I believe, in my opinion, also includes cartels and foreign militaries. Now, you wouldn't expect the militia to be able to full on, fight the Chinese government. They'd be irregulars. But they would be able to do something. If the cartels came in, if a gang came in, the militia would be able to do something until the military could form some kind of response, or in some cases, ICE, ATF, FBI, Homeland, Space Force, what have you. So a world has to exist where you train with other like-minded people, and it used to be the government, well regulated by the government, didn't mean the same thing it means now. It meant then that they funded some of your training, they funded some of your ammo, they funded some of your firearms. They do that with the National Guard, but they don't do that with militias. And they should. Because if they can barely field, and I keep saying this, they can barely field enough National Guard, if the judges don't block it, to hold a city block. That's it. That's not martial law. They would have to deploy all of the National Guard in the entire United States to try to be able to hold one city if it got that bad. And they can't even do that. They couldn't even stop the crime in DC. They couldn't stop the crime in the New York subways. They barely held the city block in Los Angeles, and that was with the Marines, or San Francisco. They had to use the Marines as well. And this is what you're going to see, is you're going to be seeing again the resurgence of the militia. Because right now, the only people resisting government tyranny are the lefty-loos. And guess what? They're organized, they're trained, and they're well funded. And that money comes from the government. Right now, Antifa is the militia. Why is that? You could say, well, it's because they're allowed to. It's because they don't care. And it's also because nobody's doing anything about it. But right now, you think you're the militia? No, Antifa's the militia, by definition. They're armed and trained from the top to resist government tyranny. They have been set up as the militia. And that is why I've been saying designating them as a domestic terrorist group is insane and should not be done, because then they could just as easily do that again in 4 years. They need to be considered an international, almost like a foreign fighting, I can't think of the right word. They're here to overthrow the government, and foreign entities are funding and training them as well. They're trained by our own government and they're trained by other government. It's weird. They're both. Whereas, like, nobody's gonna arm conservative groups. Like, could you imagine if the Russians were like dropping off like supply crates of AKs to like conservative groups? That would go over great. That would be all over the news. That'd be all over everything. Instead, Vickers is probably still in jail because Orange Man can't be bothered to get Vickers out. Our FFLs still can't import half the shit that we want. We the patriots and conservatives of the United States have jack shit for funding. We're not well armed, well trained at all. We have no coordination because people can't even agree over what caliber to use or what camo to use. And there's just no motivation, because as long as the sports are still on, people can't be bothered. Meanwhile, you've got extremely fit people running around the cities with absolutely nothing to lose. They may or may not be on either side or their own side. And you have to just hope they decide to not lock in on you, and hope they decide to still have something that they want to go home to where they'll leave everybody alone, and hope that you don't look like, get to the chopper. Hope that you don't, look like a soft enough target. But I'm sure I look like a big, soft, squishy target. I try to look intimidating, but to somebody who fights people all day long, I no doubt, I'm sure look like a big squishy cheeseburger in their eyes. And especially if there's two of them, because I can only, if I could try to grab one of them and then try to use him to pivot off the other one, and it's just dumb. It's insane. Fighting just in general is insane. And if you're not training, like, de-escalation doesn't work if they have already decided that they want your shit. If they've already picked your car because your car is the last car in the parking lot, they've already decided. And there's still so many places that are gun-free zones. I still don't completely understand what's going on with USPS. But like casinos and schools, and half of the airport, and it's just like, they want us disarmed. But if you're not in fighting shape, and fighting, again, physically fighting people is just insane. But like, especially when like civil unrest gets like this, there could be like, at those things, there could be like 2, 3, 4, 5 street fights per night. And you can't take that many hits to the head. And if you hit the concrete, they're gonna just be stomping you past the point of unconsciousness. Like, you don't get it. And these stupid idiots take their wives, take their girlfriends, and it's like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You do not take your wife into a war zone. You do not take your squishy girlfriend into a war zone. It's infuriating to me. Now, there's some things that gals are like way better at in those situations, in those conflicts. Like, they can de-escalate if that's even possible. They can deal with other gals. Most of the time, they can slip around largely unnoticed. But they get in trouble way faster. A lot of them run their mouths way faster. Gals in riots, protests, civil unrest, gals are like fucking gasoline at those things, and that's why Antifa uses them as their front line. And people, well, I've never hit a gal. Well, Antifa's whole entire front line is gals and trans. So, like, they will use everything to their disadvantage. And you know, I'm kicking myself for not being as ready to go out today as I should have been. And it's that normalcy bias. Oh, I'm not going out very far. Oh, we're just going to this. Oh, we're just going to that. Like, and you have the scenario in your head. Like, you are just never as ready as you think you are. And I'm really kicking myself, and I've got to step it up. I've got to get like the normalcy bias behind me, but like, hospitals are gun free. Like, it's ridiculous how many places are gun free zones. And some states are even worse, where it's like, oh, now private property are also gun free zones, and now parks are gun free zones, and stadiums are gun free zones. It's like, do you want me to be disarmed everywhere? Or concerts are gun free zones. Oh, that's insane. Movie theaters are gun free zones. It's like, and then you got the Mormon church that's like, oh, and every single Mormon church is a gun free zone. It's just like, you're out of your fucking mind. Where then? So that's half the transitional spaces, are all gun free zones. How are you supposed to get to your car? Not to mention every federal building's a gun free zone for some reason. And then even the courthouses, it's like, well, of course the courthouse has to be a gun free zone. Sure, but how do you got to get back to your car? Like, if you're on a spicy case, they're waiting for you. That Antifa like doxes the shit out of their, the jurors and stuff. It's just like, and then they have to throw mistrials. The whole thing just gets screwed up. Like, all I can say is, like, you've got to, do the due diligence in your state for like the really good concealed carry lawyers. There's some good ones, and there's some that'll just leave you high and dry. You need to find the ones that'll defend you no matter what, that won't like drop you at the tip of the hat. There's some really bad ones out there, and you've got to carry locked and loaded, and you've got to have a reputable pistol that's reputable for carrying with one in the chamber, and most of your Springfields, Glock, and some of your SIGs. But I tell you what, like, everyone shut up about that SIG thing really fast. But I know there's a lot of people that switched back to Springfield. But like I've said before, like, here in Washington, switching pistols isn't that easy anymore because you can't swap your mags out. You can still buy whatever modern pistol you want, you just can't swap your mags out. It's just the most infuriating thing on the planet, and they think, that that's somehow saving lives, which is unreal. They need to do, the FBI needs to change, somehow compel the judges to restore our Second Amendment here, if only so we can freaking swap our mags out. But we also, a world needs to exist where we can, get new modern rifles. Right now, you can't get modern rifles in Washington. And in a protracted civil unrest, that's going to be a huge problem. You need access to more. You're going to have more people joining your mag. If you don't want to call them militia, you're going to have more people joining your mag. Even if they had modern rifles, they might not be able to grab them, or there might have been roadblocks where they had to give up their modern. Like, it's tough. If anything in the world, like, you have got to have ample supply of ammo and modern defensive tools. So if you have to leave, if you have to bug out, it's so much better to already have like the food and water where you need it, and so you can, even if you don't grab all your ammo, which is ammo weighs a ton. You've got to have those modern rifles with you, because those modern pistols, because that's going to be it for a really, really long time. And that's why everyone should be on 223, 556, for rifles. That way, you could go in on a bulk ammo buy and spread the ammo out. It's just like, man, planning for it's fear mongering. It's like, man, we're there. Like, if you don't think we're here, we're here. And OVP did a thing about it earlier. We're there, and the Charlie Kirk thing didn't kick it off, but the Charlie Kirk thing shoved everybody back in each other's faces again. It ratcheted it right up to the edge. We didn't need to be there, but here we are. And if you're sitting and waiting on a drone, get a drone. If you're sitting and waiting on armor, get your armor. If you're sitting waiting on even just some lowers, like, grab a bunch of lowers. Here, when they were legal, you could get like as many lowers as you wanted for like $35, and you could make as many ARs as you wanted. That's how low they were. Like, that's insane. And for like Black Friday, you could put the rest of the rifle together, sans the barrel, for like $200. That's the militia, right? 3D printers. If you're waiting on a 3D printer, get a 3D printer. If you're waiting to reinforce your house, reinforce your house. Like, this is it. It doesn't get better from here. It gets worse. The way these cycles, and this isn't fear-mongering, this is how every cycle works, and I get so sick and tired of people saying, people have been saying this for 10 years and nothing happens. Oh, I beg to differ. Every 4 years, we have massive civil unrest. 2020, massive civil unrest. 2016, massive civil unrest. 2012, massive civil unrest. Fuck yourselves if you think nothing ever happens. Every 4 years in the last four-year fucking cycles, We've had massive civil unrest. And here we are at the next one. You can put a clock to it. Some bullshit, some George Floyd thing, some Trayvon Martin thing, some whatever the fuck the 2016 one was. I guess just Orange Man. Like, this bullshit happens every 4 years. You have got to be ready. And the first 4 words of the Second Amendment are a well-regulated militia. Not guns. Militia. Now, yes, you need guns and ammo, and you need lots and lots and lots of gauze, and you need lots of training. But, like, everything is getting worse. Everything is getting worse. Money, financials, jobs, all of it. And you only control what you patrol, and I don't know if there's just more provocateurs or if there's more quote unquote, feds or whatever, or just people that just flat out want to kick this whole thing off. But like, we have to not get divided. And I think the fact that like I've triggered now like 2 people into bringing up my book, like, tells me that there's more eyes on my book. And I've definitely sold a couple more copies, and I've stopped making updates. So fall edition is done, and I'm gonna wrap up my art book probably here in just a little bit. But like, I don't know, maybe my prepper book doesn't even go into this as much as it should. But I think it has the gear in it. And while gear and prepping kind of aren't mutually exclusive, the reason why my book is that stuff and not bushcrafting is because I think people are too intimidated to do bushcrafting, but they want the quick fixes, and so they want to know about armor. They want to know about drones. They want to know about... I still didn't put binoculars in there. Oh well. They want to know about the different knife steels. Maybe they want to just start a little garden. Like, the reason why all that stuff's in there, the reason why I keep trying to push my book over and over again, is because everything in that book is stuff that I've answered 1 billion times now. And if everybody just gets a copy of the book, then everyone will just have the reference material. Because like most of the stuff that people ask me, all I'm doing is just opening up my book and finding where it is, and then responding. Same thing with batteries. I've answered those battery questions 1 billion times. So the solar questions, I answer those solar questions like several times a week. And if everyone would just grab a copy of my book, not only would it actually help me prep more, but it would help all of you be more prepped. And so yeah, I'm going to wrap this one up now. But again, I think like I may have said in part 1, if part 1 turns out okay, bunkerbasics@protonmail.com. If you're a VIP and want me to send you a signed copy, or if you're not a VIP and you just recently bought a prior copy and you want me to drop ship you the newest copy to kind of make up for it, let me know, and I'll check that email a couple times until I'm sure I've gotten through everybody. And just hang in there and don't wear yourself out, because this is going to be a long one. And don't get distracted. There was something else I can't remember. Oh, my book will be on sale for a few more days, and I'll try to get everybody to spread the word about that. And yeah, there's a couple people I owe signed copies to, so I'm gonna reach out to them. But if there's anybody I missed, and unfortunately, if you're not a VIP, I'll drop ship you one if you bought one really recently. But otherwise, yeah, just keep spreading the word. It helps me out a lot. And I'm rambling now. I'm super tired. What was it? Oh, one of the cows is coughing? Oh, one of the cows is coughing. That's probably not good. Anyway, yeah, just take care and really work out in your mind that, like, these transitional spaces, these parking lots, these gas stations, man, you've got to figure out a way to be armed with one in the chamber. And you've got to be aware, like, we're super close, and it's no one specific race or ethnicity or anything. Like, it's going to be the poors versus the not poors. You're going to look soft and squishy, and they're just going to decide that they want your shit, or that they want your girlfriend, or that they want your kids, or that they want your car, or that they want your groceries. Groceries are fucking insane right now. Or they're gonna see you walking out with takeout. I'm actually surprised that guy didn't hit us up for money, because with how expensive it is to eat out, I thought for sure he was going to hit us up for money. And I was, man, it was in the middle of the day, and I just like, I'm mad at myself. Every time I'm not as prepared as I should be. Every time I make like a little slip up, I'm way too hard on myself. But that's what you guys need to be thinking through this stuff. You need to realize that you're not as ready as you think you are. That you should be carrying, your wife should be carrying, your girlfriend, whatever they are. If you have a wife and girlfriend, they should both be carrying, okay? But if that's your situation, you might have some other concerns if they're both carrying and they don't know about each other. But that's not my point. You carry, your brother needs to carry, your parents need to be carrying. The gal might have to defend the guy. There could be 2 or 3 guys. You have to train together. I know it's not fun. Gals want to just push this stuff out of their minds, but they're the mama bears. They're the last line of defense. If you get knocked out, they need to be able to draw and just start stacking. It's so easy for you to get knocked out. It's frustratingly easy. And people, they throw full-on haymakers right at the beginning. Or they just swing 3 times a second. You've got to, man, violence, you've got to be ready. You go from like 0 to psycho. And you might be able to handle yourself in a fight, but you might have 2 or 3 people and you're getting attacked and they're getting attacked. And so while you're defending yourself, you're watching your loved ones get knocked out and dragged off. Like, it's tough. But you gotta start figuring this shit out. So we're super close. There's still time, but we are super close. So check out my book, and there's supposed to be like a super moon tonight or something. I don't know. Just take it easy. take it easy, and if you need a primer, go watch the Purge movies. Especially the second and third one. Second and third one are really good. Anyway, I'm rambling. And I did a retrospective on the Purge movies, if you're interested in that. Anyway, I will talk to y'all later. Check out my books. Bye-bye.